Ask any top achiever and they'll tell you, I've been through some failure. From Thomas Edison to Oprah Winfrey, any person who has accomplished much has had to sacrifice much in return. And unless you're gonna wrap yourself up in bubble wrap, I suggest you get used to failing from now on. Because the only real failure is not trying, or trying and then so-called failing and not taking a lesson out of it. Failure, rejection, all these things that we perceive as bad, they show up in our life for a reason. They show up because we're supposed to learn a lesson. But then what do most of us do? We resist them. We say, no, I don't want any of that. Failure? No, thank you. I just want to be successful. First try. Failure shows up to teach you something. And it's not an indicator that means you have to stop now because you're bad and you don't know what you're doing. Much rather, it is a simple indicator of what you should look at and learn from. I myself, when I started my YouTube channel and my personal growth journey and getting into motivational speaking, for the first 6 months, nobody gave a damn. Seriously, I was posting videos every single day. You can go back and check my channel. Nobody watched, nobody cared, and I didn't mind. Because I wasn't doing it to please somebody else or trying to make someone happy. I was doing it because it meant the world to me. I knew it was the right thing to do, and that's why I put my heart into it. And that's why I'm still showing up here every single day. But the reason failure becomes such a big deal is when you try to live up to somebody else's expectation or idea of who you should be. That's where all the pain really comes from. I mean, think about it. Would you really mind failing at something that you care about? Because you could also fail at doing something that you don't even want to do. The biggest problem that I personally had with failure was that I had this idea in my head of how things should turn out. The result-oriented thinking, always being dependent on an outcome from life. Looking for people to validate me. Looking for the world to give me a sign that I was doing the right thing. I want you to switch out of that today. Stop looking for the external circumstances to approve of you or tell you that you're good. Because if that's what you're looking for, you've already failed by default. You're not even in the game. You've already accepted a loss. Because you're playing somebody else's game, not your own. You're not setting the rules if you're living that scenario. If it's up to you, you can switch how this plays out. You can switch how the system and the rules work because it's your rules, it's your system called your subconscious and your conscious mind. Make it clear to yourself right now that failure really is just you moving forward. It's a stepping stone on which you will build success. Failure really is a big part of the journey towards any goal. It's not something that you get to pick and choose whether or not you want. It's something that you have to learn to deal with. And that's why I really want you to implement what I'm saying right now in your life from today. Make that switch in your brain. Go from looking at it as something bad that happens to you into something that you create as a stepping stone, as an experiment to find out what works and what doesn't. That doesn't mean that you get to use failure as an excuse not to be consistent. Because really, the ultimate failure is when somebody gives up right before the finish line. And believe it or not, a lot of people make this mistake. They go into something that they really believe in or that they're passionate about. They grind and grind for a while, but maybe the result and the outcome isn't quite what they wanted, aka failure, and they give up right before they hit and strike gold. Don't do this to yourself. Whatever it is that you have yourself committed to, see it all the way through every single time. The biggest reason to do that is because of the relationship that you develop with yourself. You know that you can trust yourself if you're somebody who carries through no matter what happens. No obstacle can stop you. No circumstances, no amount of failure or rejection or anything can really get in your way from reaching and accomplishing your targets, your goals. And that's a really big point. Change the way that you define your goals and your targets. Focus on the things that you can actually control. If you want to set some goals, don't make it some wishy-washy number that you want to make, or some perfect relationship that you want to experience, or the exact way you want your physical body to look. Because although you might get close, setting some of these goals that people do is almost like setting goals for what the weather is supposed to be like tomorrow. You're forecasting rather than really goal setting. Real active goal setting looks like this. And by the way, this kind of goal setting does not have failure as an option. You just do what you're supposed to do. So it's very simple. You don't write down the outcome that you want. You You write down the input that you're gonna make instead. So if you're trying to hit a certain weight, you would put down how many calories you're supposed to get a day, as well as the exercise that you're doing to burn some of that off. If it was business, instead of saying get 5 sales, which you cannot control, at least you can't control that number 100%, set the goals for how many calls you're gonna make, how many presentations. This is much more effective because it gets you focused on the tasks that you should actually be doing that will lead to the end result that you so deeply desire. And in that situation, the only failure is not carrying through on your own work, in which case you learn and grow, you keep readjusting, you keep improving, and you get better. It's that simple, really. So no more dabbling in failure and feeling bad about yourself because for some reason you're not living up to somebody's expectation of how you're supposed to be. Instead, simply focus on the things that you can control, on the things that you should do that you know are right for you. And that's all for today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. As always, leave a comment below. If you have a question, I'll answer it in the next video.